Hello. Good morning or good afternoon. Today I wanted to talk about something. I wanted to talk about the concept of how human beings are actually sponges. Like we are literally sponges. What do I mean by sponges? Sponges, you know, like it's something that absorbs, right? Or like a rag or something like that. Like for example, I have this kitchen cloth, this dish cloth. This dishcloth is made of microfiber, and the whole idea is when I wash my dishes, they're still a little bit wet. I put that so that it absorbs. Now, it doesn't really matter whether the water is clean or not. If I put this, it's gonna absorb that. If I put it on a clean plate, it's gonna absorb it. If I put it on a dirty plate, it's gonna absorb it. This thing here absorbs. The human mind doesn't work any different. Your entire existential being, your entire being as a human being, that's kind of how we work. And I feel like a lot of people don't understand that, or we like to ignore that fact. And that's why I honestly believe that the average human being today is socially, mentally, emotionally way less capable than people were maybe 100 years ago, 200 years ago. Back in the days, men had to go to war, boys had to go to war at the age of 14, 15, 16. I'm not saying that's right, but it was a certain level of responsibility. If you look at the age that Alexander the Great was conquering, this guy was, I think he died. How old was Alexander the Great? Alexander, before he died. Alexander the Great died. He was born 323 and died 356. So he lived for just 43 years. No, 33 years. That's the thing. He was able to do all of that. We used to talk about this guy, 33 years. That means he was probably conquering in his 20s. That's a level of maturity that the people back in the days had. So why am I bringing this up? You're a sponge. From the information you consume, the people you surround yourself with, the music you listen to, the food you eat, to the noise around you, everything. You are a sponge. You're a sponge of information, and your body tends to adapt to that. If you're constantly watching terrible things, listen to terrible things, that's how your body would adapt to function. You'd want to crave terrible things, or you'd feel only comfortable doing terrible things. And I feel like from a young age, I was lucky where I kind of understood this. Or maybe, like, now I understand why my parents would tell me not to hang out with a specific set of people, not to do specific set of things, because it felt like they were stopping me from being free. Don't smoke weed, don't do drugs, don't drink, don't do this, don't get a girl pregnant, don't chase after women, like all those things. Like, it's interesting, the human condition, when you stop human beings from doing, we're constantly craving freedom, which means the ability to do whatever we want to do. But that ability to be us doing everything we want to do is actually not freedom. That actually leads to anarchy. If you leave human beings to do whatever they want to do, we will just want to do everything. But also, when you stop people from not being able to do anything, you become too rigid. That's also not freedom. So it's interesting. That means the sweet spot is somewhere in between. The sweet spot is being able to do something but choosing not to. And I understand that now. I find myself, for example, there's a specific type of music that I don't listen to, even just for fun. Because I understand that if I constantly listen to that specific type of music, it's not gonna do me any good. There is specific type of things I used to watch, right? Like I would watch before, maybe on YouTube. I don't watch that anymore. Why? Because I now understand that it does not do me any good to watch that. You know, there's like it, or I limit the time I spend watching that. There's specific type of people I used to hang around, specific types of conversations I used to have that I don't have as much as I used to, because I understand that it it's not pointing me to the direction that I want to take my life. And the only way you can really understand what you want to feed your sponge is by figuring out that you are a sponge to begin with and accepting that. And I feel like a lot of people work today, they don't know that they are sponges. We are all sponges. Look at children. How do they learn what they learn? From the adults around them. And this was very interesting to me. I found myself in Nigeria sometime in February, March this year. So I was in Kaduna, and I have family there. So and I was my sister would give me her car to help me move around. She said, "Hey, you're in the city. You have work to do. Give me her car." And what I figured out is I was tasked with picking up my nieces, and that was it was like responsibility. I would plan my entire day that I know that at 1 o'clock I was going to pick up my nieces, unfailingly. And I didn't want to fail them, which was weird. I haven't got any children. I didn't want to fail them. So I was going there on time. Exactly 1. Latest 1:05, or just before 1. I like, and what I started realizing, because I admitted that I was a sponge, I've already come to that realization that I'm a sponge. Now I know that they are just susceptible. So there's specific type of music that I'm not going to play when they're in the car. In fact, I rarely played music. I normally don't really play music. I listen to Audible. So I was listening to Audible, but also the audiobooks, I was making sure I was listening to books that were PG. I was not going to listen to books like talked about complex situations, because I know they can hear and they can listen. So I used to listen to Jordan B. Peterson, his new book, or Shoe Dog, Phil Knight. And I would listen to that. But also specific things like, I'll be on the phone, I wouldn't swear. When I was driving, when people did something, I wouldn't like tell them, "Hey, fuck off," or "fuck you," or things like that. Because I was suddenly aware that these children are in the car. I have a responsibility to not, that everything I do, they are sponges just like I am. So they are going to absorb, coming back to this analogy, they are going to absorb whatever comes from outside. But here's the thing, I'm only able to reach that level of self-awareness and realization because I had accepted on some level that I am also a sponge. Now imagine if I didn't understand that I was a sponge. I'll be singing bashment music, FU this, any type of rap music, and they are just 5-6-year-old children. They're gonna be singing that, yeah, body yaddy yaddy yaddy, whatever. And then gonna take that to their friends, and maybe some of those friends, their parents are not going to be happy about that, or their mom's not going to be happy about that. Can you see how we are responsible for our actions, and once we lose responsibility, how it goes to affect so many people? Imagine if I was talking about like extremely racist things that I didn't even know was racist. They will listen and they'll take that, and they become, if I was talking about extremely sexist or misogynistic things, they could be. If I was talking about misandristic things, they could be taking that. Imagine if like I was a female and I was saying men are terrible, men are bad, I hate men, men should die. Those little girls could take the same thing. And I understood that. One of the things that really was crazy is when I would go pick them up, I would tell them, "What do you say?" Because they would forget to say, they didn't really know how to, this is the first time they're hanging around with their uncle. So I'll tell them to say good afternoon when somebody comes to pick them up. So the first time, maybe one of them would remember, the others would just be smiling, "Hey, welcome," but they wouldn't say good afternoon. Now, they're not rude. They're just not used to me. They're very well-mannered children. But here's the thing. After a while, I said, "Hey, good afternoon." That's what you say. They would say good afternoon. Then they'll be forgetting, "Hey, you have forgotten. Say good afternoon." They would remind each other to say good afternoon. And when we would go pick up the second set of siblings, nieces, those ones too, "Good afternoon." "Good afternoon, uncle." "Uncle, good afternoon." And it became a thing now. They say good afternoon to anyone picking them. And I promise you, if somebody else picks them tomorrow that is a man like myself or a woman or whatever, they would want to say the same thing, good afternoon, because that was the sponge. And I linked it to a reward as well. I was like, hey, we're going to get ice cream. Whoever doesn't say good afternoon, we're not going to get ice cream and cake. Suddenly, they're saying, they're maneuvering. It's not about the ice cream to them. I didn't get them ice cream every day, but they said good afternoon every other day. It really blew my mind. I came into fatherhood mode, even though I don't have any children, and I understood that, wow, I have a job on my hands when I have my kids because I have to protect them. Because they are sponges, they absorb, especially at that young age, they absorb. That's what's gonna inform them of who they are. So all of this is only possible because you understand that you are also a sponge. But not just like a sponge. When you squeeze the sponge, it excretes the liquid that is absorbed. If it's good liquid, it's good that comes out. If it's bad that comes out. So if you are absorbing bad, one day you're going to be squeezed and you're going to stain other sponges, knowingly or unknowingly. So the only way you can really be responsible is by only trying to absorb what you think is good and question what is good. From the music you consume, from the friends you keep, from the job you have, from the things you say, from the things you watch. And a lot of time, religion actually talked about this, and it's a concept that when I listen to a few philosophers, it's a concept I'm really trying to come to terms with now, which is that the concept of heaven and earth is not just a worldly thing. And hey, if you're atheist or whatever, it's fine. This is just a concept. The concept of we didn't think of the concept of heaven and earth as an afterlife thing. I honestly think the concept of heaven and earth is an earthly thing first. I don't want to get too deep. I can make a separate video, which means heaven and earth are right here. It's more like an experience, a mindset first. You can go to, because if you think about a lot of the things that religious things say that you shouldn't do, if you do most of them, you would not have a productive life. If you're constantly lying to people, you're not going to get very far. If you're constantly cheating, sneaking, anything in excess, you're not going to get very far if you're not aware that those things have a way of, informing the decisions you make and shaping your life. And if you do a lot of the things that the religions say are good, kindness, a lot of things, don't cheat, don't steal, be good to another person, compassion, you'd have a heavenly world experience. So I'll talk about that in a different video, but please be aware that you are a sponge. You are absorbing information just as much as you're giving it out. Try to refine the information you're absorbing, because when you absorb good, you'd give out good. It's input, output. If you absorb evil or negativity, you'd give out negativity. If every day you come on Twitter, you're just ingesting men are trash, men are trash, men are trash, men are trash, or women are trash, or whatever, that's exactly what you're going to project to the world in your day-to-day life. If you're out here on social media but you're consuming motivational things like this one and everything, that's what you would learn and that's what you would give out to the world. Anyways, this video has gone a little bit longer than I wanted it to. Beware, you are a sponge. Sani Yusuf out.